folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris once again. Hello, folks, and welcome back to Chris Wyatt Africa here on the Indaba Africa channel, part of the Indaba Broadcasting Network. It's a pleasure to have you back with us once again today. I have a special featured guest, and this is the leader of a grassroots local political party or civic organization that stood and contested in the 2021 municipal elections. This is an interesting development that's been taking place all over South Africa as people have become hutful of the African National Congress's lack of service delivery and other issues going on in the country. And I don't know if that's the reason the party exists, but we're going to find out today as we talk to the leader of that party. Now, the leader of the party is Thabiso Morebantwa, and I'm going to have him join us in just a moment here, let him get into the program. But I'm very excited to have him on the program. He and his organization agreed to come on the program at very short notice, continuing coverage of the 2020 municipal elections. I thought it'd be appropriate since we had 8 of the more larger and better known parties on the program, but we had a hard time getting independent candidates, and we didn't get to know many of these groups. So there he is. So welcome to my guest. How are you, Thabiso?
No, I'm good, and you say?
I'm very well, thank you. So we see the banner behind you. It says Forum for Democrats. Okay, so it sounds like you have a voter there who's barking in the background.
Yes, it's my dog. My apologies for that.
No, it's quite all right. But welcome to the program. So I invited you on the program today to talk about your political party. We noticed I had a guest on the program last week who does election analysis, and he brought Michael Atkins, and he brought your party to my attention. Now, I'm very familiar with Zeerust. I've been through there and been to the town many, many times. Of course, I used to live in Gaborone, and so I would transit there, going either to Ramotswa or back to Gaborone and going to Rustenburg and Pretoria and so forth. So I know the area, and your party didn't exist before, certainly not when I lived in that area. So it's a relatively new organization. Can you tell me when your party was created?
Yes, our party was created in 2019. And the commission, the Independent Electoral Commission, it registered us around the 3rd of March 2020. That is when we were legally observed as a political party, because now we were registered with the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa.
All right, so you came together as a party in 2019 and achieved official status in early 2020. And I assume that was because you intended to stand candidates for this election in 2021.
Yes, that is correct, because our intention was to contest the 2021 local government elections.
Now, where did you stand candidates at? Was it just in Zeerust or also other municipalities?
No, we did have candidates in other municipalities. I will just mention a few of those municipalities, which is Rustenburg, which is Ratlow local municipality, and the municipality that I'm residing within, there is Ramotswa local municipality.
Now, as I said, you came to my attention because of this elections analyst who told us about your organization and what was happening. Let me ask this question. I know that in Zeerust, as of the moment, although the election is still being reviewed by officials, as of the moment, you didn't get any ward councillor positions either by winning a ward or proportional representation. Were you fortunate enough to win any positions in any of these other municipalities?
No, even in those municipalities, we did not perform as expected. And one of those reasons is that I will be blatantly honest with you. You know, elections are very expensive.
Yes.
You need resources. And without resources, it's very difficult to be able to move from one area to the other. Mostly where you have what we call rural municipalities, and we have huge and vast differences of distances within villages, and you have to travel from each and every villages. You need t-shirts, you need placards, you need volunteers for those elections. And without resources, it is really very difficult to make a penetration and to make an impact in those elections, more especially when you are a new party that has just been founded.
So the party itself, why exactly did you come together? There's been a proliferation of these local grassroots parties in this election over the past couple of years. Was it you had some different ideas about governance, or you were frustrated with the governance you've been getting? What exactly is the reason that the Forum for Democrats was created?
Yes, Forum for Democrats was created, as you mentioned it, because we have a different view of seeing things. We started to realize that we do not have leaders who are very credible. leaders who are ethical, leaders who have an integrity. Now, as Forum for Democrats, we said, no, we need to have a particular kind of leadership. Leadership that will have ethical standards, leadership that will have integrity, leaders who will have compassion for their own people. And yes, another reason is that because when it comes to service delivery, mostly in rural villages, to a certain extent, we got frustrated that service delivery is not as it should be. And for that reason, we said, no, let's come together as people and found this organization that will ensure that we reach our own people and we stand for the values that our people aspire for. That is one of those reasons that we formed this organization.
Well, I have to be honest here. It's a bit of editorial, but I think that a lot of people would agree with me. And that's your description of what you're looking for is not exactly a description of the ruling party. The African National Congress hasn't exactly been a good standard for ethical leadership. So it sounds to me that you, and as well as many other groups, are not happy with what's been happening. And that's why you kind of created this party to try to make a difference.
That is correct. That is correct. That we were frustrated by the ruling party that our people do not receive standard or sustainable service delivery. There is high rate of unemployment. I will tell you, our roads as potholes. It's most of our roads. We are without water, just a basic need. And because of those reasons, we said, no, that cannot be. And as I'm speaking to you now, we are experiencing load shedding. We are without electricity. It has become a norm of our life. Now, because of those reasons, we said, no, we need to shift the paradigm. We need to change things. We need to have people who will know what the people want and what the people are seeking and be that kind of those people. That is why Forum for Democrats come into existence.
Well, let me ask you this question, because for folks like myself, who's an analyst, of course, I worked in the intelligence community for a number of years as a serving military officer, and then also in the private sector. I've warned people about the way that the ruling party has been approaching infrastructure in South African service delivery for well over 2 decades. They've been neglecting it and ignoring it, and there was no consequences. People really didn't seem to be paying attention. But I guess that because things have become just so abysmal the past several years, and particularly this past 18 months or so, you really see it with potholes, with load shedding constantly, with police who don't respond or don't have resources to respond, pervasive crime. All of this sort of adds up. Do you think that there's perhaps a change now amongst ordinary South Africans looking at the African National Congress not as the party that it claims to be the party of liberation, but more as the party that fails to keep the lights on and fix the potholes?
I'll tell you, if you look at the trends of our elections, you'll realize that if there is any change that the people are starting to realize, it's mostly those people who are in urban areas. To a certain extent, they are realizing that, no, this ruling party is not doing what it should be doing. But I will be honest with you, our people in rural areas, to this moment, they haven't realized that. They are still following the trend of voting for the African National Congress. And one of the reasons is it's like our people have this embedment that they owe the ruling party some sort of trust or some sort. They have to reward them for something. And because of that, they are continuing to vote for them. And one of the reasons, again, is that, our people, mostly in rural areas, to some extent, they're ignorant to a particular extent of things that are coming because of this ruling party. And other issues that are used, I will be honest with you, issues like social grants. Our people believe that because they are receiving social grants, they have to pay a particular homage by voting for the ruling party. And these things, you'll see that people during elections, they receive particular certain grants, they receive food parcels. And because of that, you see our people turning a blind eye to what is happening and in any way voting for the ruling party. And after voting, they start to complain. They start to close roads. That is what is happening. And that it's heartbreaking because our people are not experiencing what the ruling party has promised them, a better life for all.
Well, I agree with you on that. And for years, I've told people that the challenge in South Africa is that people vote based on identity. Now, most people, when I say that, assume that I'm talking about white, brown, and black. No, that's not the identity I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who identify with the African National Congress, which is what you're describing. People who they identify with the party and they see it as something that it may not be. In fact, I would argue it's not even remotely what people see it as today. And so that's why they continue to vote for it based on identity. They grew up with the ANC, they see the ANC, and that's what they think that they're obliging to. And it's heartwarming to see it coming from yourself. Now you're not one of those baby boomers. You look to be a bit younger than that. So can you give me an age range of where you're at? So I don't want to ask your age. I mean, it's okay to ask a gentleman his age, but a lady, you never ask her age. But I mean, I won't ask your age, but what kind of age band are you in there?
I'm 47.
Are you serious? You're 47. Oh my goodness. You must be taking.
I'm serious. That's my age.
You must be taking good care of yourself. Let me zoom in so folks get a good look at this gentleman. Yeah, he's taking good care of himself. Must have a good life there. Obviously not spending your weekends drinking chibuku. That's for sure.
No, I don't do that. I don't drink. I don't smoke.
That's why you look so young. Okay. So no, but
thank you very much.
You're very welcome. But still, it's relatively young. I mean, in the politics scheme, it's mostly a bunch of old fossils that are hanging around in politics in South Africa. So I appreciate where you're coming from, but so you're also from a generation like myself that's not born free. You were born before the dispensation, and so you've seen in your youth a bit of the other side of what was going on, and now you've seen it this side. It's got to be particularly galling for you that people continue to identify with the party simply based on things that aren't even real. For instance, you mentioned the Sasa grants. They don't come from the ANC. They come from the government of South Africa. And so many people see the ANC as synonymous with the government of South Africa. Of course, you can't blame them when you look at the president of the African National Congress and their business card says president of the ANC, and then it says president of South Africa underneath that. It's party before people. That's the slogan I've been using for the ANC for several years. Party before people. It's cadres before South Africans. So that's got to be frustrating for you. So, you know, you talk about this issue with how the people in the urban areas see these things, but the people in the rural areas still are stubbornly persistent and clinging on to the past when they vote. And I can see this myself driving from Zeerust to Tlokwane to the border crossing with Botswana, driving through those little villages up there. You can see that these are villages that never see anything in the way of services from the ruling government. You wouldn't even know they're there unless they show up and they give you posters just before an election.
Yes.
So that's, go ahead.
No, you are correct that mostly our rural areas, they have not received any services as it has been promised. Their lives have not changed to anything. Like we have spoken about the state of our roads, the state of the government buildings, the schools that are there, they are no longer operating. In general, the lives of our people are deteriorating. You go to younger generation, young people that should be hopeful of the future. They've become drunkards. They've given hope because nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. It's just promises after promises, promises after promises, but nothing is coming to our people. And on the other hand, it's because our people in no way are able to hold the government responsible for the promises that it makes during the elections. And in some way, playing a certain role that, no, it was this person, but not me, but I'm coming and this. And to a particular extent, our people will believe that and they will just follow that. But nothing is happening and our people's lives is not changing. And we cannot blame the past time. We cannot blame a past era. But we have to say to the government that is in place now that you have done nothing to change our people's lives.
Well, I would argue a little different piece there. I think your statement's correct, but I would go a little further with the African National Congress. By the way, I was very generous to the ANC up until 2018, after Cyril Ramaphosa was elected, and they tried to pretend this was a new dawn. I mean, he was the vice president under Jacob Zuma. He was part and parcel of what was going on. So when that happened, I saw that the ANC wasn't serious about about leading South African governing. But I would go quite the other way there, Thabiso. I would say that, in fact, that the African National Congress has not only not made things better, they made many things worse. Now, true, they built a million homes with RDP housing, but they retained the title for most of those. They didn't grant the land to the people, so they've got this dead capital. Instead of giving that land and the property and the house to the people who occupy it, who then would have tangible property, they could go to a bank and make a loan because it could be repossessed and they fail to pay. They hold it so that those people are dependent on the state. In addition to that, we've seen educational standards. I saw Cyril Ramaphosa a few months ago say Bantu education was worse than no education at all. To which I agree. And I just consider the ANC's Bantu education because that's what they have. I mean, they've lowered the standards to ridiculously low levels. You need 30% in two scores on the matrix to enter university. That's insane. That's not passing. Do you want to cross a bridge that somebody who got 35 in math and 40 in science is an engineer that built? I don't. I don't want to cross that bridge. That's pretty scary.
Not at all.
So, look, I mean, to be fair to the ANC, they made some strides and some progress early on, but it didn't take long before this culture of it's our turn to eat crept in. And do you see a lot of that in Zeerust? Is that one of the motivating factors for why you guys came up with a party? I mean, service delivery is an issue, but was corruption also an issue there? Because it's a big issue at many other places.
Yes, that is correct. Let me say to you, you will find that some people joining the ANC, it's not because they want to serve our people, but it's some sort of saying, look, if I'm a member of this organization, I'll have ways and things coming my way. I'll be able to benefit. Tender premier, you'll have people doing tenders. And at the end of the day, whatever they are doing, it will not even be visible or even be seen. It will worth to no quality. Now, that is what is happening. We cannot run away or shy away from that there is corruption. It's rife. Even in my own municipality, even in our areas, we are experiencing that. We cannot run away from it, and we cannot say it does not exist. It do exist. And you see people doing this, they get away with it. You will just hear about it. You will just hear that there is an investigation, but that will come to nothing. But the only thing that will happen, you'll hear an allegation about the person. The next thing is transferred to another department or is transferred to another province. That is what they keep doing. There is an allegation, they will mushroom somewhere else. So that is true and that is correct. That because of corruption, our people are not experiencing the livelihood that they should be experiencing. That is the problem.
Well, I don't know. I have to say, Thabiso, I think you're poorly informed. I mean, the African National Congress has told me it's because Jan van Riebeck came to South Africa 2,000 years ago. That's why things are the way they are today. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. The ANC member of parliament who said that in parliamentary session is not very good at mathematics. Jan van Riebeck arrived in 1652, not 2,000 years ago before Christ was born, around time Christ was born. So I'm just, anyway, it's just, I could resist that. Sorry. But but you're absolutely right. I mean, look at the case of Zandile Gumeda, former mayor of eThekwini or Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. She is charged with 58 counts of corruption, I think it is. And then surreptitiously earlier this year, they appointed her as a member of the KZN provincial legislature until independent journalists like myself and others exposed that this person accused of corruption. When the ANC has this policy, if you're accused, you have to step aside. And she's appointed to the legislature. Now, what they did is they suspended her with pay. So she's still drawing money out of the taxpayer's pocket for doing nothing while she faces corruption charges. This is what they do. It's very frustrating. I'm sure that this is an issue. Now, when you campaign, what issues, I should ask this, how did you campaign? Did you have people go door to door? Did you stand on corners? Did you hand out leaflets? Did you go on the radio? Did you use social media? How did you run your campaign for this small party?
Yes, we did use social media. Mostly we did use Facebook. And we use leaflets. We did door-to-door visits. We were almost for a period of 3 months on a campaigning trail. Every day, doing house-to-house visits. That is what we were doing. We were trying by all means to reach our own people. We are trying by all means to ensure that every house, it has a leaflet. Against all odds that we had limited resources. We did not have money. We have to make ways and means to see to it that we were there on the road. We have to make sure that we are going house to house, talking to our people. We did try by all means to ensure that our campaigns, it's there and our people hear about us.
So do you think that any particular way that you did this was more effective than another, whether it was door to door or social media? What do you think do you have any sense of which was the most effective means for you to garner votes?
Yes, we think house to house visit did help. But like I said at the beginning, that when you don't have resources, like I'm saying, organizations that have resources, they will use food parcels. When I come to you and I just talk to you, encourage you to vote for me without giving you anything, and someone comes and gives you something, you are more inclined to vote for that particular person than me. That is what we are experiencing in South Africa. That is what is happening. And I did mention that we have our young people. Some young people were bought with alcohol to go and vote. That is what we were experiencing, and we have come out of these elections with one thing clear, that we were saying to our own people, we want to give you leaders that are ethical. But we did realize one thing. Our South African people, they want to be lied to. If you want votes in South Africa, lie to them. Tell them the truth. They are not going to vote for you. I'm being honest to you. That is what we realized. When we sat down and we did post-mortem, we said, guys, look, we shoot ourselves. We were honest with our people. What kind of leadership we want to give to them. And like other political organizations like EFF, they were using national matters, that, we will nationalize land, we will see to it that your grants are increased, while knowing that the local sphere of government in South Africa, it has no say, no empowering provision when it comes to social grants. But because we were honest with our own people, saying that it cannot happen, the local sphere of government does not have that empowering provision. But what they did, they voted for them. So it became clear to us that if you want votes, lie to them. Tell them the truth. They are not going to vote for you. So it seems like in South Africa, to a certain extent, corruption, it pays. You become honest with our own voters, saying, vote for us. We will be honest with you. We will do it right with you. They don't do that. They want someone who comes and lie for them and disappears. And they will see that particular person in the coming elections. That is what we are experiencing, mostly in our rural villages.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, it sounds like you must be a journalist working on my program, because I've been saying that in the build up to these elections. When the EFF announced its platform for this election, there were 8 pillars. 6 pillars are national competencies, not things that they have any control over a municipality. Yes. And I warned people of that. But I have to say that, Thabiso, your statement is probably the most honest thing I've heard out of somebody in politics in South Africa in a long time. If you want votes, you should lie to people.
Yes, yes, tell them the truth. They're not going to vote for you.
Oh my goodness, that's pretty crazy stuff. But sadly, it's probably a pretty true statement there. So, folks, you're listening to Chris Wyatt Africa on the Indaba Africa channel, part of the Indaba Broadcasting Network. My guest today is the leader of the Forum for Democrats there in Northwest Province, and he's joining us. This is Thabiso, talking about the election and Grassroots Party and what it's like to campaign for a small party like this. He's already talked. He's mentioned, it takes money and resources, and that's a challenge for newly started parties. Also, he just revealed something that, when he told people the truth, it probably cost them votes. He should have lied to people. Is what he's saying.
Yes, so, we probably should have lied to them. We told them the truth. We told them the kind of leadership that we want to give for them. But what they did, no, they did not vote for us. They voted for people who did what? Who lied to them.
It's absolutely crazy, and there's all kinds of things going on now with elections there in South Africa after the fact. We have, I don't know, I assume you probably paid attention to what's happening in the major metros yesterday in Joburg and Ekurhuleni and also in eThekwini and now possibly in Tshwane today. It looks like a clean sweep for the Democratic Alliance, but they shouldn't get too excited because they don't actually, your screen went off. They don't actually have, yeah, you're good. It was probably trying to time out. It was just timing out.
My apologies for that.
No, it's okay. You probably have an Apple device. It likes to time out. But so the DA has won the municipality or won the mayorship, but they don't have a coalition. So they got to be careful because everything they try to do, they're going to have to convince a bunch of parties to go along with them because it's not a formal coalition. But crazy stuff yesterday. The one thing we've seen consistent here is that all around the country, people are saying, ANC, my sign is, my number is,
yes.
You need to let it go. to quote Megan Trainor. Yeah, you need to let it go. But people are hot full of the ANC and they've just had enough. And parties will vote for anything but ANC, it seems. So let me ask this question about Zeerust there. So your party, did it do as well as you hoped, or did it do worse? Or I get the sense that you're a little disappointed at the result you got, and that's okay if you are, because politics is not an easy thing to get into.
Yes, that is correct. We are a little bit disappointed with the result that you got. Not only because maybe the people did not vote for us, but to a certain extent in our local municipality, which is Ramotsiri, we did try our level best to see to it that we do our level best to reach our own people. We tried to campaign to a little bit higher standard, but we did not receive the result as expected. And indeed, yes, we are disappointed because of that. It was not only because the issue of resources. That is the issue. Yes, we did not have that much of the resources, but we tried our level best to reach our people. Like I mentioned, that for a period of 3 months, we made it a point that we reach our people. But things did not turn as we hoped for. But that did not demoralize us. We believe that we have laid a foundation. We believe that now our people know Forum for Democrats. Now our people are aware that we exist. And like I said, we have learned, not that we will lie to our own people, we will find ways to convince our own people. Because one of the programs that we want to start with immediate effect, we need to do voter education. Because we have to a certain extent realized that one of the reasons that even the Independent Electoral Commission is not doing voter education, it's because they want to trap our own people into ignorance. And they are aware that ignorance, it will benefit the ANC. Because I don't understand that you'll have people who are newly voter registered. And they are new, they have not voted. But you don't see to it that you make means to see to it that those people are educated when it comes to voting. Why are they voting? That they are not voting for social grants. They are not voting that they be built something, or they be given money, or they be bought alcohol. That there is a government, and that government has to take care of them. It's their government. Whether they are members of the ruling party or not, the government is there for them. And they are not doing that. So one of the things that we realized, we said, look, we need to see to it that as an organization, even with private organization, and make partnership with them, we start a voter education program where we talk to our own people that, look, you go with this trend of voting, the ANC, let's make you aware, there will come a time that you are leaving a legacy for your grandchildren, that you will regret at your old age, that this mess you have perpetuated, you have made it a point and a clear point that you voted for this organization while it does nothing. So being disappointed, but we come out of this realizing that, there is something that we need to do. We have to do something. And we have to say, look, one of the things that the ANC has done, it's a dependency syndrome. They have created a dependency syndrome. Our people don't want to do things for themselves. They kind of like government has to do things for us. And because of that, they are capitalizing on it. They are doing that, knowing that we will not take care of them for a period of 5 years. We will do nothing and something will happen. Let me tell you, before, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the elections, now you started to see them erecting toilets. Really? Do our people need toilets? Toilet, it is the most thing that we can prioritize. If you travel the road from Zeerust to Lebate, you will see a lot of toilets that are to be created. But our people are not without water. Let me bring this controversial issue. It's not that it's an opinion of an organization. When they say to us, go and vaccinate so that you protect your future, I ask myself, what future? Which future are they talking about? When I'm without water, when there is a high rate of unemployment, when our people are hopeless, there is no electricity from 5 until 11 o'clock. Now, when they talk about future, which future are they talking about? So, we are in a very state that is not desirable for our own people to be. I think maybe that people are better than us. We are living in misery.
Well, that's quite a bit to unpack there. Let me go to a couple of things you talked about there. I'd say that's definitely a lot of truth coming out right there. And it's, what future? I mean, you're worried about getting the jab when you're not even delivering electricity and people can't refrigerate their medicine, their milk, their food. It's not reliable. You don't have lights on. Crime goes up when the thieves have a chance to pilfer from you when there's no lights for security. The list goes on. And no clean water can lead to dysentery, all kinds of things. And they're worried about the jab. Now, I understand where you're coming from completely there. You mentioned voter education. It is a topic that's come up a couple of times here. For instance, I know a lot about South Africa. I didn't realize that they had a process. Or I assume there's a process, but I didn't know it was similar. Here in America, if you rock up at a polling station and they can't verify you on the voting rolls, you file what's called a provisional ballot. There's a process in South Africa. It's called an MEC7 form. I had a viewer of mine who was voting in the Western Cape in Hermanus, went to the Fynbos Park polling station, and it was elderly people with special voting on the weekend. So they went to vote. Many of these people had the text message from the IEC saying they were registered at that polling station or a letter they received. And 80% of them were turned away, told they weren't on the voting rolls. They couldn't vote. Now, none of them were advised that, well, since we can't find you in the voting rolls, you can fill out this form and it becomes a provisional ballot. Now, that's voter education, not to mention the fact, the little things like, listen, your SASA grant doesn't come from the African National Congress in Lutuli House. It comes from Pretoria, from the Treasury, because the taxpayers are providing that, not the African National Congress. So I think you're spot on with the importance of voter education. There's really an abysmal level of voter education in South Africa. What's really sad about this, Thabiso, from my perspective, is that people all over South Africa and around the world fought for decades to get equality of voting rights for South Africans. And we saw a massive turnout on the 27th of April, 1994. And now only 31% of eligible voters bother to rock up to vote in this election. The African National Congress gets 46% of the vote for those who voted, but that's actually only 20%, only 20% or 13% of the eligible voters. So 13% of the 39 million people can voted for the ANC in this election. That's pretty sad. I think that speaks volumes.
Yes, it is.
So as far as your party, now you did mention something here. You mentioned a couple of times, our people. So let me ask for clarity here. Are you a party that's focused on an ethnic group? Or are you focused on serving the Bakwena people or another group? Or do you mean just the people of South Africa?
No. we are not ethnic based. We want to serve the people of South Africa. We are not concerned about race. That is not our own concern. What we are concerned about is that we want to serve the people of all across ethnic bases in South Africa. We are not concerned about the language. No, we want to serve our own people. Because as South Africans, if we are experiencing this problem, we are all experiencing it. It's cut across. It matters not you are from which race. It's cut across. We all experiencing the same problem.
Well, the reason I ask is because historically the ANC has been top heavy with Xhosa leadership, most of its leaders, until Zuma ascended to the top, and then it changed a bit. But that's historically considered a party. I mean, it's a party that people over South Africa follow, but it's heavily dominated by the Xhosa people for a long time. And the Inkatha Freedom Party is essentially a Zulu-based party, although there are others. There are whites in KZN who vote for them. But it's essentially a Zulu-based party. Whereas the Democratic Alliance, while people call it the white party, that's actually factually incorrect. It's mostly a colored party. It's mostly coloreds who vote for the DA, and that's but the press doesn't like that because it doesn't fit their narrative. So although the DA professes to be a party of all, and I would say that's the case, and then people look at the Freedom Front Plus, and a lot of them see the Freedom Front Plus as a party that's focused on Afrikaners, and that's been true historically. That's why I asked the question, because there's an awful lot of either perception of ethnicity-based parties in South Africa or reality, and so that's why I asked the question. So I was just curious. So thank you for answering that. I appreciate the honesty on that. So. Oops, it timed out again. Your screen timed out again. Just tap the screen, whoever's there helping you out. Okay, whoops. Oh, they disconnected. All right, folks. So I think they just connected. Give them a second there. They'll call right back in. So you're watching Thabiso Morebantwa, who is the leader of the Forum for Democrats, a small party in Northwest Province, who stood for this 2020 municipal elections. And we're talking about grassroots politics and how people get into it and why they're doing it. I got to say that this guy is really switched on. I don't know about your thoughts so far, but I tell you, he really has a good grasp of what's happening in South Africa. So. Hopefully the audio, there we go, we're back. Okay, we're back. So I think that whoever has helped me out must have just disconnected. Not a problem. I just told people to be right back. I was paying you a compliment while you were off screen, saying that this guy really seems to be switched on. He seems to be getting the issues that are affecting South Africa. How is it that you get it and so many people in South Africa are blind is a question a lot of us have to ask. And by the way, that blindness is across ethnicity and racial lines. There are blind white folks, blind black folks, and blind brown folks all over South Africa who simply can't see the truth in front of them. It seems to me like you really can. How do we change that? It's not just education of voters. I think it's education of society.
Yes. I think the issue here is that it's politics that we call politics of the stomach. That our people are not paying attention to the damage that is being done by continuing to vote for the ruling party, the ANC. They are just happy what they are giving maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the elections. But they are not realizing that the legacy that is left, it's not assisting in any way. That there is almostly the deterioration of almostly everything. Now, you know that it's disheartening, it's heartbreaking to see that our people are not realizing and even in any way capturing that, look, we need to change this. We need to change this government. We need, because there is that desperate need now, not tomorrow, to change the ANC. We need to do that. If we are not going to do that, we are going to have a problem for a very, very, very long time. That is the problem. So the problem with our people is that even if those who are in business, you know, they are the ones who are doing business with government, that they are misleading the majority of our own people, that during the elections, they will pour massive resources into the ruling organization, and even personally carrying out certain projects that they want to project the ruling party as a carrying party, that is government that is carrying. And at that particular moment, our people get misled. And because of that, our people tend to go with that narrative that is going on at that particular time. And it becomes very difficult to work against that.
Well, it's a great point. Jacques Vint, who's one of the viewers of my program, says that Thabiso is switched on because he's not blinded by a racist blame game. Looks like he just wants to make South Africa better. And then Fleshen, who's in Wales in the United Kingdom, says most of the politicians that I have interviewed on this program have come across really well. And he said, you have to wonder why the ANC still gets this blind support. And I think Thabiso kind of hit on it there. It's, here's the other thing that, Thabiso, one of the reasons why I said that this election is probably the most consequential election in post-apartheid era history in South Africa. And in fact, I stand by that assertion, which I made last year, is because the clock is running out. There's nothing left to steal. There's nothing left to fall apart.
Yes.
It's all collapsing around you because of the ANC. I mean, education standards are abysmal. They're the worst in the world. Health standards are declining. The theft of state resources is off the charts. The country is in junk bond status. There's no money. The ANC owes its creditors 200 million rand. It hasn't paid its employees in months. Coburg is about to crumble and fall apart. The nuclear plant in Western Cape. The lights are off. The list. I mean, we could run through this forever. But the thing is that this was so consequential because the ANC gifted. Now I'm not talking about your party because your party is a small local grassroots party, but it gifted the DA, the EFF, the IFP, all of these opposition parties. It gifted them this election. It couldn't have been any easier. They kicked one own goal after another. I'm a rugby fan. I'm not a soccer fan, but I'm a rugby fan. But they kicked one own goal after another. I mean, no cooked chicken, no e-commerce, no open-toed shoes. What does this have to do with science or reality? Punishing people, locking them down, arresting them for nursing their children in their yard or going swimming on the beach or surfing the ocean. Because we all know that's where the wave comes from. That's how everybody gets sick. It's the ocean that makes you sick with the Rona. I mean, it's idiotic nonsense. And then shutting down alcohol sales and banning the transport alcohol, which destroyed South Africa's wine export business. Now suppliers around the world don't buy from South Africa because it's not reliable. The list goes on and on. And all the stupidity that's gone over this past year, plus, health officials stealing money from Digital Vibes, the PPE scandals. Yes. It couldn't have been any easier to defeat the ANC, but people still have this identity politics. And I think part of this, and let me get your take on this, because I admonished these opposition parties that I knew of. I wasn't familiar with your party, but I'm talking about the big ones. For the past year, since June of last year, when the lockdown was first eased and you could go back outside your home, I said, you must be now in the townships, in the rural areas, in the leafy suburbs, in the mining hostels. You must be on the farms all over the country now, bringing people to your standard. Politics is a blood sport. It's 365 days a year. You must canvass and tell people who you are and what your party's about, because otherwise you are not going to get votes when you go 2 months before election, go, hey, here's a poster, vote for us. Now, your party's small, so your party can be forgiven for not having the resources to do that. But these other parties in opposition didn't do that. And the only party that gained among those big parties was the Freedom Front Plus. They grew from 115,000 votes to 276,000 votes, whereas the Democratic Alliance lost 37% of its voters, 1.5 million. The Inkatha Freedom Party gained 7,000 out of over 500,000 votes, and the EFF even lost 24,000 votes, but got a lot more seats because people didn't vote for the ANC or the DA. So, from your perspective, would you agree with what I'm saying, or do you think that there's something to be gained here by getting engaged sooner? And let me take that and turn into a second question. Does the Forum for Democrats have aspirations of something at the national level or provincial level, perhaps in the coming election in 2024? Or are you going to try to hope to wait for 2026 now for the next municipal elections?
I do agree with you. I'll make an example with Freedom Front Plus. To a certain extent, there is something that you can read. You can read that how a political party approaches the elections. It tells you even how it is administered. The administration of that political organization. How do they prepare themselves? So you can tell at the point when they posted placards and their messaging, they could tell you that they were ready and they were prepared, even long before that. Even if they could have not been seen that much, but internally, you could tell that there was an administration saying, look, this is what we are going to do. This is going to be an approach. But with other organizations, would say they did have the resources, but they did not do that. But the question would be why? It's not that these political organizations, they are not aware of the ignorance of our own people. And that is what they are playing into. That is what they are using. That even if you go to them at the last minute, they will agree to us. Let me paint this scenario. Our people are very weird. A person will be just 2 houses away from the voting station. But believe you me, that particular person will be transported to the voting station. Well, a person who's just 2 houses away from the voting station, but that particular person will wait for a transport to be transported to the voting station.
Rather than walk there.
We talk about dependency syndrome, when we talk a point of our people being bored, those are kind of tricks that these political organizations are aware of and they are using. Now, coming to our aspirations, one will say, ooh, these people might have taken a beating. They wouldn't even dare try the 2024 elections. That being the situations, our intent is to contest the 2024 general elections. And the province that we want to contest these elections in, it's the Northwest Province. We want to contest in this province. We are aware that we will need resources. It's not a secret. We will need money. Let me put this. You need around 45,000 just to register a province in South Africa. That is kind of the money that we will need. The money that we don't have now. We will need placards. We will need leaflets. We will need volunteers. That is what we need. We will need to contest those elections. We do not have that kind of resources, but we have the aspirations and the intention. And our belief is that we are going to contest those elections
in 2024. Well, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Let me, there's a couple comments here from the chat. Let me bring it in here. So Allison Johnson says, Thabiso, I wish we had more leaders like you. I'm a teacher still teaching desperately poor children that live in shacks. It breaks my heart. And I can certainly appreciate where she's coming from. There's plenty of people living in shacks in the Zeerust area. You know, you go west of Zeerust to the border with Botswana, and there's plenty of people still living in shacks and very poor housing there. So I appreciate where she's coming from. And then Jacques Vince says, now, this really isn't germane, but Jacques means this in the best of ways. He says, we need more black folks like this in politics. Why does the DA not help guys like this? Which kind of asks the question, or begs the question there. Let me ask you this one. This is a personal question for you. Okay. So, I mean, you don't have to answer it. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think a lot of people would be curious. You seem pretty switched on. You seem to be not blinded by the corruption and by the tenders, and not blinded by race, the race hustling that goes on by these parties. Is there a reason why you didn't gravitate to a standard of an opposition party like the DA or the Freedom Front Plus or Inkatha or COPE or something like that? Why you decided to, because I presume you founded the party. If I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, but you founded this party. Is there a reason you decided to do that rather than hitch your wagon to one of these other parties?
Yes, I'm one of the founders of this political party. Let me deal with the issue of the DA outrightly. That's my opinion. It's a personal opinion that the DA, it's entrenched on race politics. You know, I'm sorry, but I will say this. Mm-hmm. I believe the DA, they are racist, but they don't want people to know. They are kinda say, they kinda, it shouldn't be known, but that is what we are. But it shouldn't be known, but that is kind of what we are. What we will do, we will portray that we are for all people. We are acceptable of all people. That there is something that is going on and our people are not realizing. And every time I come to realize this, it breaks my heart. Because there is this narrative that is being perpetuated. It's a bit underground. It's portrayed as if you are black, you can't lead. Your demise is to take to the people to a route that is not correct and it will do nothing. But to a particular extent, if you are white, you have all characteristics of a leader. And that is what the DA is portraying. And most unfortunately, that is what the ANC is saying. It's true. It's true. And the EFF, to me, is just pure madness. It's just pure madness.
Well, I agree with that.
It's a personal opinion. It's just pure radical madness. Everything that they are doing, it's amount to nothing. It's just pure radical madness. COPE is dead. COPE is dead. Now we founded Forum for Democracy to say, look, it's an organization of people who believe in liberation, who are inclined in liberation, who wants to be that we want to be in this organization, irrespective of the race, irrespective of the language. It's for the interest and the benefit of the people of South Africa. The Inkatha Freedom Party for me, and I'm not saying that is wrong. Mm-hmm. I have a belief that, well, it's for Zulus. That's my belief. Mm-hmm. That is how I observe it. That is how I've seen it. That is why we realized and said, look, let's found an organization. And we knew at that particular moment that it will not be easy. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a high road, but let's take it. Let's do it. And we agree that we are going to do it. One might say we have taken a knock in these elections, but we said, no, we are not stopping. We are continuing. That is why I'm saying to you, FFD, it's an organization for democratically liberated people who believe that we need to have leaders who are ethical, who are compassionate, that you cannot live a life that is far high above your people. And it's normal that we have things that the people that you are leading, they don't have. And it's normal. It's just something that does not concern you. And you can even go to an extent of stealing from them. And it's normal. It's normal. It's just okay. It's just okay. You don't even say, but no, what I'm doing is not correct. So we said, no. We need leaders who have the integrity. That is what we need. And that is why we found Forum for Democrats.
No, that's a really great point. Now, one of the frightening things here, Thabiso, about all this is that if we look at Zeerust in the municipality there, for instance, we see that the economic freedom fighters, who, as you said, what they come for is madness, and I would agree 100% with that, but they actually pulled 13, almost 14% of the vote, over almost 4,500 votes for ward candidates. Now, there's another party there that is a local party, too, the Forum for Service Delivery. Now, did you see the Forum for Service Delivery as a competitor for you, or is it a party that you even addressed? Because I think most people have never heard of the Forum for Service Delivery outside of the area.
Yes. Look, I think one of the confusions that somehow brought us into this spectrum is the issue. If you see FFD, Forum for Democrats, and you have Forum for Service Delivery, it's a bit confusing. And the candidate for that Forum for Service Delivery, he was the Speaker for African National Congress.
So he was already known then. His name was already known.
Yes, he was already there. He was already what they do. It's something that happens. I'll talk to the 2016 local government election, that we have an organization that was called Africa. It was a breakaway from the African National Congress. So almost during the election, we have these breakaway parties from the ANC. And now you have those people coming in and saying, so I will just simply say to you, Forum for Service Delivery in Ramotshirimudwa is just a name, but it's just the ANC. You just have two organizations that have separated from one another. What we are calling Forum for Service Delivery, that they have about 5 seats. Those seats they are from the ANC. So our people, I think to a certain extent, they couldn't tell the difference. And that is one of the things that we picked up when we were campaigning, that they were saying to the people that, no, Forum for Democrats and Forum for Service Delivery is just one thing. So there was a bit kind of confusion that confused our people to a certain extent.
No, I can see that. That's why I was curious about that, because they polled about 15%. We're getting a shadow in there, whoever's standing there. Okay.
And for that, they use ex-councillors of African National Congress as their candidates.
Well, I mean, it's not the first time we see this. I mean, Cope, of course, was all the Thabo Mbeki supporters who were angry that he was tossed out at the Polokwane conference. Yes. So they formed Cope and got 8.5% in the first election. They've just done this ever since. And the EFF is just angry ANC Youth Party members who think that Julius Malema is the second coming of Christ, and he's actually, the second coming of, the devil. Yeah, so that's all that is. So, I mean, you have to look at the EFF, and I guess, as you're saying, the Forum for Service Delivery is simply an extension of the African National Congress. In fact, I've told my viewers for a long time that the EFF is simply, the Mkhonto weSizwe runs around and claims credit for being the organization that liberated South Africa when they actually killed more of their own members in Quattro and Angola than they ever killed South African Defense Force members. So anyway, but Mkhonto weSizwe also had maybe 2,500 actual veterans, and they claim 100,000 members. But I tell people that the armed wing of the ANC is not the spear of the nation, Mkhonto weSizwe. It's actually the economic freedom fighters. That's the militant group of the ANC. Yeah. So
that's it.
There you go. So there's some other comments here in the chat. So JP Dreckmeyer says, seems like a good guy. You guys could take out the EFF Northwest and go from there. Well, I don't know if he'll be able to take out the EFF, because I don't think the EFF voters are people who, for the most part, are rational or can be convinced about things that are in their own interest. It's other places you're going to have to poach voters from, and I think there's fertile ground for that. And let's see what else. Kevin Morse has been listening. He lives in the Western Cape. While I'm packing, I said, admire the spunk of Thabiso to campaign with the lack of funds that one needs. May the money come to you, he says. Okay. I don't know if that was a prayer or just good thoughts, but it's kind of him. So that's nice. And then there was one other one here. Hendo, who's a South African, lives in the UK now. He's a refugee, fled from the Western Cape. He's colored. He says, expensive endeavor to run a political party in South Africa. You need donors. That's absolutely true. So Thabiso, this is a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate it. Can I ask a personal question? What's your profession? Are you a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a farmer, a janitor? What do you do in your personal life?
No, what I will tell you is that I'm still a student studying law.
Uh-huh.
That is what I'm doing currently.
Okay. So you're working. You're working on a law degree right now. Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in this area, in the municipality, what do you think the single greatest need is? I mean, other than ethical leadership, a lack of corruption, but if you were mayor tomorrow, okay, if they made you mayor tomorrow and your party had the seats on the council for majority, that's a big dream. But let's say it happened. What would be the first thing that you go after to tackle? That of course, now you can't be like the EFF. You can't say I'm going to take land from people. I'm going to fix the electricity, because you don't control that. But what would be the first thing you think you could do as the head of the council to make life better for people in that municipality?
The first thing that we will do, I will tell you, one of the things that is killing our own municipalities, it's cadre deployment. They are deploying people who do not have the ability or the capacity in the administration. I think if we start correcting the administration, we will be able to serve our own people. That is the first thing that we will do. Now we will do what we call skills audit, to see to it that the people that we have there have the ability and the capacity to see to it that there is service delivery. Let me tell you, the Auditor General points a bleak future every time he did audits. He will point to one thing, that you have people within municipalities, officials, they don't know what they are doing. They don't know what they are doing. Even in what we call budget and treasury offices, you have people who don't know what they are doing. So the first thing that we'll have to do is to see to it there is skills audit, so that we have officials who are capacitated. Because if you have officials who have the capacity, now you'll have people who will be able to carry their work efficiently and correctly so. Let me tell you, people will say politicians are, to a certain extent, corrupt. I agree with that. But, people who sit in specifications committees are officials. And those are the very same people who are seeing to it that this thing of corruption is perpetuated. So it's one of the things that we'll have to deal with, that if there is anything that we deal with, it's consequence management. You do not have officials who do as they please and at will. Because you'll have where you are told that you have a road, it's 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers. When you go there, it's 50. When you go and see to it, it's 50. You'll have projects. Those projects, they will start, but they will not end. If it ends, it's shabby, it's of no quality. And this happens because we have officials who do not have the capacity and the ability. What we will see to it is to say to our officials that the objects of local government must be done, must be implemented. What the Constitution of South Africa says when it comes to object of local government, do that. It's not a favor to our people. It's what we are obligated to do. That is why our own people would have made a choice of Forum for Democracy. So these are a few things that we'll see to it that we put them in place.
Well, you know, there's a really a good question here. I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it because my viewer did. My viewer asked a question, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer because you've talked about your party being a party for everyone, non-racial. But Jacques says, if you don't have someone that has the skills, would you replace, say, a black engineer, a CFO, with a white South African, and by extension, I would imagine Indian and colored? I think the answer would be, of course, yes, you would do that because you want the people based on merit who are qualified. Would that be your response, or would it be different?
No, that is correct. You know, I think if we will do things based on color, the only thing that we are doing, we will have our own people. We will have to see to it, whoever have the ability and the capacity to perform a duty. It's not the issue of color. It's not the issue of language. We will accept and deadly accept all people.
Well, you know, it's fascinating because the answer to this, which I said back in 1994, Thabiso, I was a young officer serving then. I said the answer to this is that a lot of people in South Africa have to be very patient. And what I meant by be patient in 1994 is it was going to take some time because you had two generations of, not exclusively, but many black South African leaders who were part of liberation movements who skipped school as a form of protest and didn't get a proper education, or they went abroad and fought in the bush or things like that. So these people became loyal members of organizations like the South African Communist Party, the Pan-African Congress, the African National Congress. They came back and they're rewarded with political positions, and they don't have the education or the experience to handle that sort of thing. And some of them actually function illiterate. I mean, look at Jacob Zuma. He can't read and write. He becomes president of the country. And that it was going to take, well, it's true, but it was going to take time because you've got two generations, what I consider fossils, not speaking ill of them, but it's just the reality is they don't have the intellectual capacity to do the things that South Africa needs. And so South Africa is going to have to be patient, as I had hoped in 94 that the education system would be improved for all instead of diminished for all. I mean, almost nobody gets this quality in education today as what exclusive white students got in 1994. Even whites don't get as good an education. And so we've got a situation, instead of investing properly in education, the ANC has put money there, but they've pilfered a lot of it. And people are more poorly educated today than they ever were in the past. It's pretty sad. If you want to ensure that everyone has a fair chance, black, white, and brown, then everyone should get free, compulsory primary and secondary school education, and they should be literate in their own mother tongue as well as, I would say, English, since that's a global commerce language. And we've gone the opposite direction. The ANC is racializing everything. They're eliminating Afrikaans, even though it's the third most widely spoken first language in South Africa, and it's the second most widely spoken second language after English, actually ahead of English. But it's crazy what's going on in South Africa with the ANC. They have destroyed education, and if you want to have qualified black South Africans, you should invest in education and educate people. Have I missed something, or would you agree with that statement?
No, I do agree with that statement, that there are a lot of things that they messed up. Even our education system, they messed it up. That instead of ensuring that our own people get quality education, but every time it goes down, it goes down. It did not produce the kind of quality of leaders that we need. That is why it's just easier to have people in government who cannot read or write. It's just normal. It's acceptable that they will even deploy people to certain positions that they don't even have those qualifications for that work. And it's just normal. It's because why? It has become normal that our own education system has diminished. And because of that, it hurts most people. It hurts a lot of people. And that is why we are not even experiencing the kind of service delivery that we need to experience, because we have people who are not in any way inclined of what they are doing.
Well, I should clarify. J.P. Dreckmeyer, who was talking about the EFF and votes, he clarified his position. He said that came out wrong. He said, no, I don't want the Forum for Democrats to pick up EFF voters. He said, I'm not sure anyone wants those voters, but I just want them he wants you to outgrow the EFF. Okay, on that, I think that's a good statement. He wants you to outgrow the EFF. Let me share this with you. You know, the importance of grassroots campaigning. We had an election on November 2nd because it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday, which is kind of weird, but that's how it's written. The first Tuesday after the first Monday of every November is a general election in America, and it's conducted in each of the states, 50 states and 4 territories. So our election was on the 2nd of November, one day after your election. And when I went to the primaries, which is when they select candidates for different political parties, it was supposed to be in May, but was delayed till June. I looked at the ballot and I noticed that there were several offices like the constable and the inspector of elections and judge of elections and things like that. There were no candidates. And I thought, oh, this party hasn't fielded a candidate. So I wrote my name down. But it turns out that you have to have 10 votes in the primary in order to be put on the ballot. Well, I didn't know that nobody's on the ballot. I didn't do that research ahead of time, because I wasn't thinking about it. And so I didn't get put on the ballot because it's just the one vote. So I downloaded the ballot in advance of the election this time before the general election day, and I saw that there was no candidate for any party on the ballot for these positions. And I'm like, that's sad. That's very sad. I mean, the judge of elections is very important. It's the person who sits at the polling station, ensures that it's run properly, ensures that there's no conflict, that no one's cheating, is responsible for the tabulation of the results and for adjudicating disputes. Also, if someone shows up and causes trouble or violates election law, you ensure that they're taken away from there, and you call the police or sheriff if necessary, if it gets to that level. So I was dismayed. So I decided to run a grassroots writing campaign. And so I canvassed my neighborhood on a Sunday night. The election was on Tuesday, and went to people whom I know and said, hey, I took a little postcard with my name and the office I was running for. And I said, listen, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's no one on the ballot for this, and I think it's important. I'm going to stand for it, and I'd like to get your vote. Well, I did that. So that's probably about 20 people that I might have gotten a vote for. But on the election day, I was teaching that day in the morning, distance teaching with the corona hysteria. I had to distance teach. But at lunchtime, I went to the polling station and I stood there and handed out a few hundred of my postcards trying to get people to vote for me. And lo and behold, with 2 hours of campaigning there, plus the hour at my house, plus I was there for 2 hours in the evening, but there were very few voters that came in the evening. It was mostly everyone was voted by 2 o'clock. With that, I managed to get 45% of what people actually were on the ballot got in my voting district. And I got 3 times the number of votes of the person who came in behind me in the writing campaign because of my ability to convince people that I was the right candidate and I had the good intentions. My point to you, Thabiso, and my recommendation to you in the Forum for Democrats, and that's the same whether it's the DRC in Kinshasa or it's in Brussels or it's in Bruges or it's in Cape Town or it's in Zeerust. Connecting with the voters on a personal level is the key. And if you're going to continue as a party and with a goal or an objective of getting someone into the provincial legislature in 2024 for Northwest, then now is when you have to start planning, putting your plan in action and start raising funds and meeting people, getting your folks involved in things in the community and activities where they'll be seen and people get to know and trust them. So they'll think of, well, for instance, Lebo. If Lebo is going to run for office for your party at Lebo Hutton, then they'll know, Lebo, she's the person that's always here helping out with this. She coordinated this. She organized this. That's someone we can trust. Thabiso, that's a person we can trust. So just a recommendation, advice, and just to show you how powerful, individual campaigning can be. So it sounds like you did some of that for this election, but you were facing a very strong headwind of entrenched parties and also short notice.
Yes, thanks for that good advice. And that is what we are going to do. And that is what we did realize, like you put it, that, somehow you need to start with your neighbors. Before you go far, start with the people who are closest to you. And that is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to make it a point that we take your advice as it is and we implement it. And we are going to start now. We are not going to wait for any time, maybe 2024, 3 months within 2024 towards the election we start. No, we are going to start now. We are going to start now to ensure that we go to the people. We are going to start now to ensure that we raise funds because, like I said, elections in South Africa are very expensive. That is what we are going to do. And we believe that even our people will respond positively. And we believe that even people who are watching now, some will call us after and say, look, we would like to assist you, and how can we do that?
No, that's excellent. So there's a question here from Mala, and let me ask this question, but I'm going to have to reframe it because she's asking a question that isn't necessary capacity for you at the municipal level. Maybe at provincial level, if you get a representative in there or two, then you could have an influence. But let me read her question, then I'll reframe it what I think is a fair question for you, Thabiso. She says, can you ask your guest about women's rights? Are they going to have more rights for better jobs? Also, if they mistreated, will they have proper help and protection by government? Let me rephrase that. So there's probably not a lot you can do at the municipal level. There's something that can be done at the provincial level, but this is really a national competency for the police, for the Justice Department. But at a more basic level, this really is a local responsibility. It's the responsibility of men and women to treat each other better and value and respect our opposite sex and our peers. And there are things that can be done at the municipal level, from awareness programs to things like that. So is this something that your party would be interested in championing equality for women? And the first person I got into contact with your party was a woman, and so obviously you've got women involved in your party. But is that a topic that you would take up or that you find interesting going forward?
Yes, I'll be honest with you. Most of our women within Forum for Democrats are one who are playing critical role. Like we have the General Secretary, it's a woman. We have the legal department, it's a woman. We have the National Treasurer, it's a woman. Mostly our candidates were women. So as the organization, we have set a tone that we have to create an equal platform for women. You know, there is something that we said every time, and we put it forth, that women in politics should not be shadowed by men. They shouldn't be seen as second role players. Within Forum for Democrats, the space is open. It's not closed. It's not about, no, you are not allowed here, you are allowed here. No, our women, they know the space, it's open. And that is why we always say to them, they also have to create a space for other women. They have to, other women to see to it that, no. Forum for Democrats, it's a great platform for us. We can do that, go there, and as women play our role. Because we believe that our own women play a critical role even in our own communities. So we are not in any way closing for them. That is why, as an organization, again, we are very much against the violence that is perpetuated against women. It's one of the things that we are saying it shouldn't be happening. That is why we are even saying, I don't understand this thing, that every year you will have a certain particular time that is created to say we are against violence against women and what. And I'm saying that it clearly shows that the government is not playing its role. If really we are saying we are against violence against women, there should come a time that we are able to stand and say we have eliminated it. But what I'm saying, I always say, the reason that we can't eliminate it because even in our own political organizations, we perpetuate it. And certain women, even within political organizations, tolerate it. They see the abuse that is being experienced by other women, and they kept quiet. They see the abuse that is done to young girls within political organizations, and they keep quiet. And what we do, we will stand and gimmick and say, no, we have this time frame. We don't want violence against women. We don't want this. We don't want this. There should come a time that we say, as a country, we have eliminated it. Our women are free to walk at night. But that is not happening. It's still just a talk.
No, exactly right. And in fact, the only time that the African National Congress as a ruling party talks about gender-based violence, which affects men as well, but it's a much smaller number of men. But the only time they talk about gender-based violence is every time they're caught with their hands in the cookie jar or their pants around their ankles. So right now, a legitimate leader of a political party like the ANC, which is just crumbling around them, losing control of all these metropolitans and dropping so low in the vote, a proper leader of a party like that would submit their resignation. So Cyril Ramaphosa should have resigned from the African National Congress for the failure. Absolutely. But he won't do that, of course. So, you know, it's, listen, folks, the Forum for Democrats, women in charge of the executive, women in charge of the legal team, women campaigning for office. Hey, fellas in the Northwest, this might be the party for you if you're looking for some of the ladies. They're all in the Forum for Democrats.
That's great.
So that's my effort to help recruit for your party right there, Thabiso. Listen, it's fascinating to have this conversation with you, and it's very, I would think, very encouraging. And by the way, you're not the only party like this. There are 325 parties that contested, and the vast majority of them are small, local grassroots organizations like your own around the country that contested this. Most of them didn't garner any seats, but a few have made a splash here and there. And I think it's very encouraging for South Africa that folks like yourself and your party are not willing to just accept the poison chalice that's being put out there of, well, you have to support and identify with the ANC because they liberated the country. Even if the ANC had been responsible exclusively for the liberation of the country, let's pretend that there was no Pan-African Congress, that there was no Steve Biko, that there was no Black Sash movement, that there was no Afrikaners who realized that this was an immoral system that couldn't continue, and that let's pretend none of that existed and the ANC won some war. Even if that were true, they are not entitled to blind faith of the voter 3 decades after they've taken control, when everything they've done is destroyed the society. They've divided people on race, they've divided people on social class, they've divided people on education level. It's this blind faith or voting for the ANC really has to change. And I think that in Northwest, perhaps you have an opportunity here between now and 2024 as you talk about to get out there and tell people about what's really going on.
Yes, I do agree with you. I believe we have an opportunity. Us is just to go there and make our own people aware. Like things that we have mentioned, that our people have to open their own eyes and realize the trajectory of our own country, where we are heading to. And that needs to change. And that is what we intend to do as Forum for Democrats, to say, look, we need a new government. We need a new political party. That is what we are going to preach to our own people. We will put forth to them and realize the state that our capital city is in. Potholes, very dirty. You know, it doesn't in any way look like a capital city. And that applies to almost every town in the Northwest province. So we will put that forth to our own people so that they start to realize that. You know, there were buildings that belongs to the government. They are sold every day. Mm-hmm. And if you see who are those people that are buying them, is the very same people who are in governance. They are selling them, and what they are doing, they go back and hire them, put offices there. So it is just that these people, I don't know when they will be tired of this thing that they are doing. So, like I'm saying to you, it's dark. It's dark. Now, they can't provide electricity. Pretoria, which is the capital city of South Africa, it's dark at night. That is the kind of the situation that we are in because of the African National Congress. So indeed, we'll go out there, talk to our own people, make them see reason, make them realize that we need a change, and we need a change, and we need it now. We will paint them the bleak future that we are existing in, that they cannot survive with social grants. It cannot be their sole provision that they rely upon. So we will make every effort. We will make it a point that we reach every corner of the Northwest province, talking to our own people, encouraging them to vote for Forum for Democrats come 2024.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, and I think one of the changes that needs to happen is the Independent Electoral Commission, which I now call the Incontinent Electoral Commission because they're full of manure. But but the IEC, I think, probably needs a greater degree of transparency. And now this is you don't have to address this if you don't want to, because I don't know whether it's still something that's being addressed by the IEC or not. But I understand that. It appeared that there may have been a clerical error that misallocated votes in the election, and it may have cost you a ward seat or a proportional representation seat, I should say. Is that in fact a true statement, or is that something you can comment on, or is it still being reviewed?
No, I'll comment on this.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. That it came to our attention that there is a clerical error that was made. That in a voting station in Ward 8 in Ramotshirimwe, like Aitsi Middle School, the EFF got 17 votes for Ward, 19 votes for PR, and 18 votes for district. But for a certain reason, in capturing, they are giving 197 votes.
Whoa! So they increased their vote total by 180 votes.
Yes. And because of that, it advantaged the EFF to a point that in the second round of allocations of seat, there were two highest remaining parties, which is the EFF and Forum for Democrats. They were placed fifth because of that error, and us number 6. If that error could have not happened, we could have been number 5th and the EFF number 6. But what we did, we wrote a letter to the commission. We made it clear to them that yes, we have realized that we are outside the time frame that was set for objection. That is not in dispute. We made it clear to them that we are aware of them. But what we did, as the law empowers them, that if an objection is made and good reason is shown, they have to condone. You know what they did? In an arrogant manner, this their reply. The objection period is closed on the 3rd of November at 5 o'clock. Mind you, there are certain political parties that they entertain their objection outside that set period. And you know, in bold, this is what they wrote. Don't reply to this email unless you have any information that will assist us. That is a commission that runs our own elections. You know, and that, you know, when we read that email, I ask myself a lot of questions. And I believe that a junior person replied to that email. One, did not even read. I don't think that particular person can read. Because in our letter, we made it clear we are outside the time frame of objection. What they should have told us is that we will not condone. Because that is what the law empowers them. That we will not condone. That is what they should have done. They could have done, which is Section 65 of the Electoral Act. That is what they could have done. That we are not going to condone. But they are not doing that. They are telling us about something that we said to them. Look, we know we are outside the time frame that is set for objection. But we request that you grant us the condonement so that we can look into that error. And somehow they replied in a manner that it's so clumsy. But today, something happens. We receive a call from the local office. Now they are asking us a question. Who is the person who provided you with the information? Ooh. And I said, these people, I think to a certain extent, I don't know what is happening. The rationality behind that. What madness is this? You write me an email saying, look, the objection period is closed. Now today you call me and you say to me, we want a person who gave you the information. And I said, if they could have read the law, they could have seen the steps that they need to follow. Because it is said, if in any way they want further information, they are allowed to make we are allowed to make an oral submission. Now, let me paint this to you. There was a time that the Independent Electoral Commission, it was so rife with members of the African National Congress. It was a commission that elections were run by members of the African National Congress. If it was not run by members of the African National Congress, it was run by people who are affiliates of the African National Congress like SADC. Now you have people within the ANC, within the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission. Now it's very clear. You have people who are members of this other organization. Now they are doing favors for their own organization. It's a clear fraud. You know what happened? What cost us a seat? It's a clear act of fraud. that someone added an extra digit. And in no way, they are not saying, no, we are willing to look into this. Let me make another scenario. We know we registered our candidate using an online, but somehow someone who did not have the authority, the authorization, when we run elections and they say you must have an online person, what happens is that you have to write a letter to say, this is an online person, is the only person who has the authority to change the list. But someone did change our own list without the authorization. And the IEC allowed it. Now, this is not the first thing that we deal with. The first thing, our own list in Rustenburg was changed by someone who did not have the authorization. When we have written a letter to them, clearly stipulating who is the person who has the authority to do it. And they did what? Went into our own system, changed our own candidate list. Now, this time we write to them with arrogance. Arrogantly so, they replied. I don't think so. A very junior person put it blindly to us that, look, we are not going to listen to your own matter. You have objected outside the time frame. Whereas there are certain political parties. Let me tell you, if it would have been FFD that have benefited in that way, and the EFF write to the IEC to say, look, this happened. Let me tell you, they will have acted. They would have acted. I have no doubt in my heart that they would have acted. But because it's us, they are saying, oh, what? Small party, what can they do? Yeah. There is nothing that they can do. So maybe even they don't have even money to the electoral court. What they did not know is that by God's grace, we have a legal department. So that's the scenario that the IEC, I don't know how to describe that. I don't know whether it's not independent. They have shown that they are not independent. They are not. They are serving certain political parties. If they are independent, I would have expected this. They could have said, no, we are not condoning. That is what the law says. It says, on good reason shown, they can condone. And even they are empowered to say, no, we are not condoning. It's fine. It would have been a fair. But when you say to a person, I'm aware of the objection time frame, I'm outside, but I'm making a request for a condonement, and they don't do that. They tell you that what they said, in actual fact, in that email, they were saying to us, go to hell, in simpler terms.
Well, let me get this straight, because there's some very serious things there that people need to be aware of. And let me make sure I've got it correct. I don't want to mischaracterize it. So on proportional representation in one of the wards at one of the precincts in a voting station, there was an error or a mistake or intentional, we don't know, but the EFF was handed an extra digit and got 180 votes more than they actually got in that district, which wound up giving them a higher position on proportional representation, which essentially defrauded your party of a seat that you earned on your campaign.
Yes,
so
that's correct.
You should have a counselor sitting in that municipality council now, is what should be happening, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so
that is correct.
The response that you got from the IEC was an email, not an official letter, and you don't know who it came from, basically telling you to get stuffed foot-sec.
That's simply that. That's that. It's in plain, simple language. That is what they are saying to us. They showed us a middle finger that you are not important. You can go to hell.
Well, it's not, listen, Thabiso, it's not you that's not important. My issue with this is it's the voters that don't matter. They have no compunction against defrauding voters who voted for your party, which entitled you to a seat on that council. So they've defrauded the people who voted for you, especially. It may have hurt your party, but they have defrauded the voters. And that's the issue I have with it. So the IEC is happy to allow people to be disenfranchised because of a time period that's passed, owing to the fact that they made a mistake. So they get to reinforce the mistake because you missed the time frame by a couple of days. And here's the thing. I know you have a legal department, but hopefully we can find somebody that can work pro bono to help you to take this to court, because you're entitled to that seat and this fraud should not be allowed to stand.
We will definitely appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. That reason that you are putting forth is what we said to the IEC, that look, elections must be decided on the basis of the voters. not those who read the votes, not those who capture the votes, but those who have voted. But in this instant, an error occurred. Look into that error. That is what we are asking them. And we are saying to them, look, what you need to do, condone to look into the matter. But what they are saying, because the law is very clear, they are empowered to do that. But what they do, they're simply saying to us, go to hell. You are not important. But something, like I said, now today they call us to say, who is the person who brought this matter to your attention? You don't know what they want to intimidate or they're investigating. But there is no way that they can do that when already they have replied in that arrogant manner, that they have done that. So that is the situation.
Well, it is fascinating. Let me reach out and there's no promises here. I don't necessarily know that I have the reach to help you out, but I'm definitely going to contact someone who might be able to assist in this matter or at least direct the right way. The will of the voter should be expressed, and this is clearly a disturbing development from my perspective. I would say this though, I don't want to say it's hopeful, but it is interesting that someone contacted you from the IEC after the fact. I suspect, I don't know for fact, but my based on what information said, perhaps someone became aware of this email at the IEC and realizes that they are in the wrong, and that's why they're investigating it internally. And that might be because someone else has already interceded on your behalf. I'm not sure if that's the case, but wow, that is definitely something that needs to be taken care of. Crazy stuff.
Yes, that was our suspicion, that maybe the response, like I said, the response is from a junior person.
Yeah.
But now somehow, in a second thought, they said, no. The approach, it's not correct. We shouldn't have approached this matter like this way. Because we were very honest with them that we are aware, we are outside the prescribed time. We are aware of that. We do not, that is not in dispute. We made a request, condone. That was our request. Condone, because they are empowered to do that.
But Thabiso, the error isn't your error. It's the IEC's error. And they're obliged to correct it when it's brought to their attention, whether you're inside the window or not. Now, legally, I don't know the case in South Africa, but we'd have to check into it. But anyway, what are you trying to show us on your laptop there?
Yes, I was just trying to show you that their response, it's just that, let me read it to you. Let me read the response.
Yeah, because we can't see the screen, so yeah. Go ahead.
You can't see. He say, thank you for contacting the IEC. We apologize for the inconvenience. Kindly note the objection appeal closed at 17 hours on the 3rd of November, 2021. And they said, written in color, should you wish to provide any information that will help us, please reply to this email.
That's very cheeky and arrogant. That's really tragic that sort of things happen. So, Thabiso, listen, thank you for answering that. She's trying to put it in front of the screen. Okay, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You can always send me a screen capture, and I can share it if you want me to.
Okay,
okay. So we could do that later on. But listen, I want to thank you for coming on, being candid, and also for being a refreshing voice. It was fascinating for a lot of my audience to listen to someone who is not captured, who is willing to speak truth. And because it's hard to find people like that. It's difficult. So thank you for that. And I'm sorry about what's happened in the municipality here. Hopefully it can be rectified and the just outcome be the end result here. So we're going to pay close attention to what's going on here and see what happens with this situation. But I want to give you a chance for the last word here. Anything you'd like to say, maybe a message of hope or something about your party or just let people know. But whatever you want to say to the audience before we wrap up. And again, in the midst of load shedding, here you are. We've had a great connection. I don't know. You must. I don't know if you gave a couple cattle to the telecommunications gods or what. But of course, we all know how important cattle are to Tswana people. So
I improvised.
There you go. It's worked very well. I'd say. Well, in Afrikaans, the Afrikaners say "mboa maak plan." I'm sure you know what that means.
Yeah. Yes,
So obviously, when I don't. Are you Buckwayne? I don't know. I didn't ask that question. I mean, are you a different group or what's your ethnicity, if you don't mind sharing?
Yes, we are Indinokana.
Okay.
Dinokana is under Khosi Muilwa.
Okay.
And we are Bahurutsi. Khosi Muilwa.
Okay, there you go. Okay, that's so I wasn't sure, but so there you go. So you make a plan too. So we'll make a plan here, but let me give you the chance here for the. But before we go, Leo Vinyonsa from Lensburg says very impressed with his attitude and much strength for him and the party for the future. Tony Nagy, who's South African in Canada, says Thabiso, stay strong, stay focused. See, I have an international audience here, Thabiso. Folks all over the world watch this program. And then Marilyn Brokenshaw, who's in South Africa, says, pray that Thabiso and his party grow from strength to strength. Very kind words here that people are saying. Erica's saying was listening in the background. She's attending to someone's small child. And she said, wow, I suspect the IC was bought, but he's just confirmed it. Very disturbing. But let me give you the chance at the last word here, okay? A few things to share with us. And then once you finish and I say farewell to you, I'm going to put you in the waiting room. I'll ask you if you can hang around for a couple minutes while I close out the show so I can just talk to you very quickly offline. But anyway, so here's your opportunity to share with the audience any thoughts you might have about anything. Message of hope for South Africa, issues about the election, something about your party going forward, anything you might want to share. The floor is yours, sir.
No, firstly, thank you very much for this opportunity. Highly appreciated. And I promise that we will ensure that FFD, it's the organizations that we say it is. There will never be a time that will meet us and you hear certain things that, no, the people that they were saying they are clean, they are no longer there. And we will also take the advice that we have given us, that as of tomorrow, we start doing our work for 2024, simply as you put it. And we will ensure that the next time when you talk, I don't know when, maybe we will be able to say, this is what we have done. And our vision is very simple, that we want to instill the hope of people in governance. And I believe that good people of this world, they will contact us through you, get our contact from you and say, look, we have seen your hearts, we have heard your voice. This is how we would like to assist you towards 2024. I won't lie, we will need donations. I won't lie, we will need donations to be able to do our work. That is what we will need. But thank you very much for this opportunity. Highly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Well, it's my pleasure, Thabiso, and thank you so much for coming on as a guest. It was a fantastic conversation. I think the audience learned an awful lot about that. Folks, Thabiso Morebantwa, my guest, who's the leader of the Forum for Democrats. Oh, you like the pronunciation? Did I get it right?
Spot on.
Well, thank you very much. Listen, it's been a real pleasure. We'll get you on potentially sometime again in the future to talk about things and see how things are going. But let's see. Anne-Marie Nell says, makes one think how many inquiries IAC are just swept under the carpet. It is a fair question, Anne-Marie. There's no transparency on the issue to my knowledge. I've never seen any data from the IAC that says this many people have inquired about elections and not. But listen, Thabiso, one more piece of advice here. If you campaign now, it may serve you very well because there always tend to be these by-elections, and you never know what's going to happen on the council. There may be a by-election, and if you've been campaigning, people know who you are, and you stand a candidate for a by-election, you could find yourself in government quicker. Or let's assume, even if you get this thing resolved and get your seat that you've earned here, that could get you another seat on the council. So keep that in mind. Elections can pop up at any time. All right, says... Marilyn Brokenshaw says, I looked up his party, but they seem to only have a Facebook profile. Do they have banking details? I'll tell you what, Marilyn, rather than putting that on the air now, when I talk to the piece offline, if they've got banking details where you can share, because it sounds like she wants to donate to your party. Wow, we weren't even trying to raise funds for your party, but so look at that. So I'll have him give me the information, and then I'll make it available in on a future stream, and also I'll put it below the description of this video so that it's available, as long as that's okay with Thabiso. All right, Thabiso, and then so let me go ahead and put you in the waiting room, and thank you so much, Kia Boa. I appreciate your coming on the channel, and we'll catch you at a future date. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, don't run off because I'm going to join you after I close the stream. Hang on, I'll put you in the waiting room, and he's in the waiting room. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that. That was very interesting. The idea here was to bring you a grassroots political party that's, because there's so many of these proliferate across South Africa, to see the challenges they face, how they go about campaigning, why they exist. This young man, because he's a couple years younger than me, this young man clearly is pretty switched on. He doesn't want to fall for the race baiting and the race hustling. He doesn't want to fall for the tender nonsense. He seems to have the best interest of South Africans at heart, and that certainly is interesting and wonderful to see. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. I will do a Night Owls tonight, because I'm in an upbeat mood now after this stream. Thabiso and this conversation really got me in a good mood. So I'll be back for Night Owls at 9:35 South Africa, Botswana, Namibia time. So please tune in for that. And appreciate your support. Be sure to smash the like button, folks. I mean, we had a decent sized audience. Really appreciate you being here. But smash the like button. It's most appreciated. Malcolm says thank you. You're most welcome. Same with Rainier. And Levin says thank you. It was an exceptionally interesting, wonderful interview, says Marilyn. And Erica says fascinating interview. Yeah, and Teresa, thank you. Yeah, you're all very welcome. Wonder if SABC will interested to interview this man. Nah, they'll never interview him. But we definitely want to shine some light on what's happening here, so the cockroaches run and hide in the corner who are involved in whatever's going on here. Now, not claiming any malfeasance, but certainly the dismissal of his request is rather out of hand, and I don't think it's appropriate. So we'll take a look at this and see what we can find out. Thanks, folks. I'll be back for Night Owls to catch you here shortly. Don't forget, with lots of other stuff coming up, the tribute service to Tunes Jordan, who passed away not unexpectedly, but at the age of 50 prematurely from leukemia. On November 17th. That's coming up on the 26th. Also, lots of rugby on Rugby Ascendant channel this weekend with the Dubai Sevens coverage, which will be limited because I'm covering URC games as well for the Stormers, the Bulls, and then on Sunday for the Lions. So tune in for that. You're most welcome. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you being here. And we'll see you all just a little bit down the road here in 2 hours. Cheers, everybody.